burritos already?
Hello and welcome to another episode of Center of Weirdness, the weird podcast about very weird stuff, but mostly it's about TV episodes of weird shows. I'm Josh, and joining me on this weird journey, as always, is Skinner. Hey, Skinner.
Hey, Josh. Hey, all you robots out there.
Hey, all you burrito kings out there.
You international burrito kings.
So, on today's episode, we are talking about Small Wonder. We are going back to the robot in disguise well that we first dipped into with Holmes and Yo-Yo. And the episode in question is from season 1, episode 14, I believe. It is called The Burrito Story.
Yeah, first aired in January 4th, 1986.
And if you think it's about making burritos, you are right, because that is what it's about. So I had... You were the one who brought up this show to us, wanted us to cover this, because I have no real concept of what this show is. Like, I knew kind of the basis that it was... When you hear Small Wonder, it's about a little girl robot, and that's really all I knew. I didn't know anything about like what the whole family was like, or like why she was there, or anything like that. I knew nothing about it. And actually seeing this episode, wow, how did this run for 4 fucking seasons?
I don't know. Like, okay, so when this was a syndicated show, but when I watched it, it was on. Yes, first run syndication. But when I watched it, it was in the heart of the Saturday morning block of like cartoons and kids shows.
Oh, okay. So definitely geared at kids.
Geared at kids, I guess, but also this episode is not geared at kids at all. Like, it's the Lockhorns.
No.
But what I didn't remember that really struck me. One, this episode is only barely
it's the Lockhorn. No, it's the Lockhorns if they still wanted to fuck each other.
That's true, which they do. But like every joke is a man versus woman joke. But I forgot. In my head, they treated Vicky like she's a robot, but she's part of the family.
Sure,
she's just a appliance to them. I mean, like,
yeah,
the shit-eating kid, Jamie, who, get your hand off your fucking hip, kid.
This is an actor who doesn't know what to do with his hands. He's a young kid. I don't think he's done too much else acting-wise. I'm looking at his IMDb now, and he's had a decent filmography. Well, no, he hasn't. Small Wonder was the last thing that he did. He did do a lot of stuff when he was younger, so he was on a lot of TV shows. So he has quite a few things on his resume between 1980 and 1989 when he stopped doing this show. But this is the last thing. So he was in like Mr. Belvedere, Highway to Heaven. These are both shows that we probably will cover at some point. Trapper John MD. Yeah, probably we'll talk about that at some point.
That's kind of the history of like everyone on this show is like this ended their careers to a degree.
It sure seems like it.
Or in the case of the mom, Marley Pennington, it literally ended her career forever.
Did she die?
No, she just decided that she was going to focus on her family, which, probably means in Holly terms, she was.
I mean, I think that's what happened to Jerry Superan too, the kid who played Jamie. Like, he didn't work after this either, so...
Like everyone, if you click on everyone who's a main actor in this, like even though the show terrible, and it has kind of like everyone like kind of jokingly remembers it. It's the number one thing they're all about. Like they're best remembered for this show. Didn't do much afterwards.
I mean, I will give credit to Dick Christie, the lead who plays Ted. He's been on The Bold and the Beautiful for like 180 episodes. So he's hanging in there just recently too. Like he's still on the show.
I wonder if he has that knack that he has on this show of somebody says something, everyone waits a pregnant pause a little too long to say the snappy response, and then and it just makes everything seem so unfunny and unreal. Like you can't take these people seriously for a second. I mean, yeah, the walls shake when they close a door. It's how they talk to each other that it really knocks it off. But like they don't like Vicky, the robot, the shit-eating kid, just treats her like shit. Like he yells at her, go make a sandwich, go do this, go clean the dishes, go do this, and you keep waiting at like from a 2022 perspective of like, okay, she's gonna like mouth off to him or not do it. No, she just goes and does it.
I will say for Dick Christie, he is on a show that if we can find a way to cover it, it was only on for 5 episodes, so we'll see if we can do it. But it's called Ace Crawford Private Eye, and it stars.
Is that a dog?
No, it stars Tim Conway.
Oh, Dorf.
Dorf himself as Ace Crawford, an incompetent gumshoe whose reputation as an ace detective is maintained by a progression of wild accidents and dumb luck. He is assisted by Toomey, a CPA who truly believes his mystique. Ace's favorite hangout is a wharfside bar run by Inch, mainly because his romantic foil, Luana, is a singer there. So, and Richard Christie was on the show for 5 episodes. There were only 5 episodes. So Billy Barty plays the guy who runs the bar.
I mean, that kind of also ties into Holmes and Yo-Yo as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we have this great cast of people, a couple of whom never worked again after this show. Looks like Vicky did do a few things like in the years immediately following, but not really. Like she was on a show called Equal Justice, which sounds also like a show that we'll watch from the 90s. Looks like a courtroom show. Pittsburgh DA staff. So
yeah, I mean this performance, which is not her fault because she's really, really, really young, and is what they're asking to do. But like, it is so great, and she has to talk in a monotone voice and just kind of yell everything. And every time she talks, you're like, oh, this is supposed to be the main character. I don't want to hear her talk. By the way, Vicky stands for Voice Input Child Identicant.
What? Identicant. Okay.
She has an access panel on her back, which we do see in the opening song, which is terrible. So we see inside her immediately, and she has an electrical outlet in her right armpit, and an RS-232 serial port under her left armpit.
Yeah, I will say that last episode we had our good friend Bo North on, and we talked about that episode of Evil, where a song gets stuck in your head. I will say that the credit song Small Wonder is stuck in my head more than the song from that episode.
It starts literally with la la la.
She's a small wonder. But yeah, it's burned into my brain now forever.
I thought we introduced a mom and she's wearing the basically the Swedish flag all torn up into a pantsuit.
So you know more about this show than I do. Is there a reason that she's a child, that she looks like a child, this robot?
Because the robot was modeled after a real human girl who was the kid. Okay,
was it their kid who died or something?
No.
Oh, so it was just a kid, and then he stole this robot from his job?
I think they just bought her.
Okay, let's see here. Let's see.
No, he made her.
He builds her. Yeah, he builds her. So why does he build her? I see.
An effort to assist handicapped children.
Yeah, we're looking through the Wikipedia page. But that means that this show goes on for 4 seasons. It runs from 85 to 89. And I mean, obviously, children age much more noticeably than adults do. So I'd be very curious to see what she looks like at the end of the series.
Okay, so to explain the child actress's aging during the show, the series had Ted give Vicky an upgrade in season 3. He aged her face, dressed her in modern clothes, and allowed her to eat and drink.
The food passed through her naturally. What does that mean?
They
made that robot take a shit.
Yes, they must have an episode where they very specifically make sure that we know that she shits. Like in these things, like Holmes and Yo-Yo, like generally the comedy ones, the robot person who's hiding being a robot comes off as human, and they're hiding it because they want, and they treat them like they're a person. They just treat Vicky like shit.
Yeah, Vicky is an appliance, which is weird. Like I guess it says on the Wikipedia page that he takes the robot home so that it can mature within a family environment. So I guess it knows how to interact with people.
It needs to dry age it.
But we're in halfway through the first season in this episode, and like she still hasn't. It seems like she's just an appliance. It doesn't seem like they're treating her like a person. They're not like talking to her or like treating her as if she's part of the family. They're making her do the work around the house. She vacuums and like has to cook dinner for them. They're like, oh, you like the plot of this is that the Joan, the mother in the family, she wants to go back to work, basically.
Oh, and every joke around, every line about this is just a truck to your face.
Yeah. So we open with Ted, the dad, played by Dick Christie. He comes home and he swoops his wife up and gives her a kiss, and then Vicky walks over and says, "No kiss for me." And he's like, what?
He's like, no, you don't kiss a robot.
Especially one that looks like a 10-year-old.
But this isn't the only time this episode where like we have the kid's friend also hit on this 6-year-old, and then Jamie does a little sexualizing of her as well, of his robot little sister.
Yeah,
but he doesn't give a shit about her. Like,
no.
And the show, if the other episodes are like this, and I don't remember, the show's actually about Jamie, who could possibly like this kid.
Oh, so the small wonder in the title refers to Jamie and his many business schemes that he tries to make money off of.
Man, this little fucking crypto bro, he just wants to get rich quick.
I'm surprised.
She could make so many, like she could process so many Bitcoins.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't brought back Small Wonder. Like they didn't do it in a couple of years ago when Bitcoin was getting popular, and they're like, oh, we'll just make a little robot who can process, who's like a rig who can process all your transactions and mine your ETH for you.
God, but also make her like, you know, it would make her 16 and hot, and then she'd be the ultimate person for Crypto Island.
And for whatever reason, sometimes her face looks like a monkey.
Oh, fuck. Brought to you by NVIDIA.
I thought you were going to say brought to you by Nabisco. They've gotten into the crypto game.
Nabisco fungible tokens. They stay fungible even in milk.
So basically he's like, where did she learn to talk like that? And mom is like, well, probably from the TV or whatever, or people coming by or whatever she hears. She just picks up things and starts to use them in her sentence, which is a thing I guess you would experience if you had a robot child in your house and you were letting them watch television. But
maybe she gets television signals to herself.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what happened. She probably just sits there and her eyes roll back into her head and she's watching TV. But basically, Joan is a little frustrated because she's sort of stuck at home and she wants to go back into the workplace and get out of the house basically and kind of feel like she's doing something with her life, not just sitting at home cooking and cleaning all day, which totally valid. You totally should not want to have to do that if you don't want to.
But the whole conversation with this, and once again, this was on for me during Kids Show, is entirely like 1965 adult talk. Like she brings up her friend Stephanie from New York. I don't know if when I'm talking to my spouse about somebody who I'm friends with, I don't reference what city they live in. I don't always call you Josh from California. Okay. When talking to somebody who should know you, unless she knows many Stephanies, which back then maybe she does.
Yeah. Which Stephanie is this? Is this the one from New York, the one from Chicago, the one from Minnesota? Which one?
And she mentions that, and he insults her friend's career choices, and she's like, well, now she's no longer struggling she's now
struggling copywriter. He says, is she still a struggling copywriter? And she's like, no, she's now the vice president.
And now she must have been struggling with the boss, which is a just gigantic dick thing to say. And this guy who made a fucking robot look like a little girl has no right to insult anybody, especially a copywriter, which is a real fucking job.
Yeah, he has to employ a copywriter to make Vicky sound good for people to buy it. Like, he's going to need the usage of that person at some point.
At some point, if he's going to make a user manual, he'll need a copywriter.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's a dick. I mean, Ted is just an asshole from Jump Street, basically.
The big deal is, if she's going to go back into the workforce, if she wants to go back and sell dresses on commission, she is an accredited teacher, but she'd rather get a job where she didn't get beat up.
Yeah.
1985, great.
Yeah, I guess the school system was very bad, or at least that's the way they wanted you to think if you lived in rural America. And
she wants to sell dresses, and he's like, if you're as good at selling dresses as you are at buying dresses, we'll make a killing.
Yeah.
That's the whole tone of this entire show.
Yeah, it is very much like the thing that you make fun of these shows for, and they're doing it like. I mean, I've watched a lot of like sitcom-y stuff from the 80s and 90s, and I can't recall any of them being this on the nose as this one is.
Gender wars?
Yes, like just real hardcore.
I mean, 1985, 86, even at that point, like, if your wife is going back into the workforce with one kid and one robot, like the whole thing of who's going, like, even the kid brings up who's going to do the housekeeping and cooking. And then he has to say, just make sure you don't come home too tired to make me happy.
The line is, if it makes you happy, it makes me happy. But be sure not to come home too tired to not make me happy. And you're like, Jesus Christ, man.
Jesus Christ. And like, I thought that's pretty something for something that was on around the Muppet Babies for me. And then like later they make out for no reason. And then Jamie comes in and goes, "Whoa, you guys don't even wait till my bedtime anymore." And then he's his hands on his hip. But like every time the parents are in screen, and they're on screen a lot. Like, imagine if like one of the Nickelodeon or Disney shows were just basically 70% about the parents and their gender wars and gender roles. Which maybe they are. I don't actually watch them. But
well, it would be like if Boy Meets World, like an episode just stopped following our main characters Corey and Topanga and their love lives, and then just started focusing on their parents
for for segments on end. And if you have a robot character and she's like the fourth wheel, what are you doing in this episode? You have a robot character who's making dozens of burritos, and she's barely on screen.
So this is the reason you wanted to watch this one, is because it's all about making burritos.
It's about making very 1985 white people burritos.
I mean, their burritos are pretty simple. It's like a little bit of meat, a little bit of beans, and that's it. And then for whatever reason, when Harriet jumps in, their annoying neighbor, they're doused in flour.
They do this. They're at one point really late in the episode, they're trying to do like a conveyor line of making the burritos. Like, they have to make it every 12 seconds, which we'll get into more. But so they're just walking in a circle on this table, and the neighbor girl, who apparently has a crush on Jamie, but that doesn't come across in this episode.
Oh yeah, you couldn't tell. She just seems like a little pill.
Yeah, she keeps throwing flour on the table for reasons that I can't even understand.
I mean, I guess to make the work surface like slippery for the burritos, but it doesn't really make any sense.
It doesn't. But yeah, so they're like, okay, well, not Jamie, Vicky will be the new housekeeper. She's programmed to do it anyways. She reads most of a cookbook, and you can plug the toaster in her armpit, and she can make toast in like 3 seconds flat, which made no sense. And that ends that for real, because that actually works out. Like, his plan was, you go back to work, I'll make the robot girl do all the housework and cooking, and she does. That's it.
It seems to work. Like, there's a little bit of I mean, it becomes the main plot, but it starts basically with Jamie wanting to get rich, essentially. Like, he hears that his mom is going back to work, and he wants to get a new bike. And
he says, dad is like, his line is, "You're going back to work. Why didn't you tell me things were this bad?"
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Because, women are not allowed to work in the workforce or whatever this idea of this show is.
But she can at least sell dresses or teach kids.
Yes. But like, he wants to get wealthy. And I guess that seems to be like a kind of a running thing here of him trying to come up with little get rich quick schemes using Vicky's abilities. And he because he wants a new bike basically, and because he saw some neighbor kid who got this new tricked out bike, and his dad was like, well, you should buy it yourself. You should find a job. You're 10 years old. Find a job doing something. I don't know what, but I guess maybe in the 80s we were more inclined to hire 10-year-olds to do things. There's not as many like child labor laws yet. And so he gets inspired after dinner that night, where Vicky has made burritos. And when when Ted and Joan come home from work, they think that it's going to be something like very over the top. Like, he says, "Oh, did she make Clams Casino or Coquavin?" And they're like, "She made burritos." And they say that they're the best burritos they've ever had. Which maybe they are. Who's to say? Maybe these people have not eaten very many burritos.
I would suggest that perhaps in 1985 they have not.
Yeah, this might be the first burrito they've ever eaten. And so they do this. Jamie's brought his friend over for dinner, Reggie. And they want to make sure that Reggie doesn't get too suspicious about Vicky, because, we don't want him to know that she's a robot, because we're trying to keep this hush hush. Despite the fact that your 10-year-old daughter cooking your meal for the entire family, it would raise some suspicions, I think.
I don't think she goes to school either, and she talks in a monotone, loud voice in everything she says.
Yeah, it's like, you would be like, is your sister a robot? Like, I feel like that would be the first question. They're like, no, she's just weird. Like, it would be great if somebody asked that every episode. Or like, is she a robot? And they're like, nah, she's just weird.
Well, here's the thing though, like, in general, because they're afraid they'll find out she's a robot. All things being equal, 1985, if everything else in the world was the same as our world, except for this guy made a child-shaped robot, you would never assume, no matter what she did, that she was a robot, because that would be impossible.
Why is that?
Like, because you can't. We can't make it now. Tesla is faking it, and it doesn't look real. So 1985, all things being equal, it's not a possibility.
No one would care anyway, because they were still up in arms over New Coke getting introduced.
They're so fucking pissed about New Coke. They don't have time to worry about your daughter being a robot. Like, no matter how weird she is, no matter what she did, even if they saw the plug in her armpit, no one on earth would make the logical leap of, is your daughter a robot? They would say, why did you put a plug inside, attach a plug or glue a plug to your human daughter? Because there's no, like, you don't go in every house like, I wonder if these kids are robots. Until I gotta see if there's any evidence they're not robots. Like, you would think of literally every other possible reason for her behavior. And at this time, you would come up with some very offensive words for it. But you would never go down the route of, is your daughter a robot? Because that would be impossible.
Yeah,
it is not. There's a limit on things it could be, and that is outside the limits of the things you could assume it would be. And here's the thing, though. When we decided to do this episode, when I decided that we were going to do this episode, when I demanded this, because it was called The Burrito Story, and the only line of description for the episode is Jamie attempts to mass-produce burritos made by Vicky. In my head, and I knew that I should have known this is impossible, I thought they would just put ingredients inside Vicky and it would come out with burritos.
In my brain, I thought she was going to have like a microwave in her stomach or something.
Right. Instead, it's just that she's helping them cook it, and she's in charge of the cooking. She's memorized the recipe. She's not doing anything robotic to make them, like, she's not like there's an episode of a couple episodes of Star Trek Next Generation where Data has to do something. And they're like, you have to put these chips back. You pulled all these chips out, put them back in the exact order in the next 20 seconds. And you see them super fast videotaping, like just putting chips in the right spot. She's not doing anything like that. Nothing she's doing nothing that a 10-year-old who has figured out the recipe on how to make a good burrito is doing. She's doing literally nothing robotic about it. She's just one of 3 kids making burritos. She's not doing anything that would make Reggie think, and once again, he would not, that she is a robot. She is just another kid who talks weird, who is helping them make burritos because she's the one in the room who knows how to make burritos. And that is less interesting than if Jamie shoved a bunch of ingredients into her mouth and pulled the burritos out of her ass.
So they are having dinner, best burritos they've ever had. And it turns out that she's made like 60 plus burritos. She's made a ton of extras. And this is where Jamie gets his big idea of selling these burritos to his classmates because they're really good and he thinks that he can make some money this way. Except that Jamie is bad at business. He does not understand what he needs to do in order to make this work. And obviously this gets corrected at the end of the episode. But he decides to sell these. This is when we get that scene you alluded to earlier where Reggie comes over and calls Vicky. He says like, "What's up, little mama?" And she says,
looking cute today, little mama.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. You're looking cute today, little mama. And she's like, "You're pretty cute yourself, big papa." And these are 10-year-olds saying this shit to each other.
They're doing things. They are written. All 3 children are written pretty much the same as the 2 parents.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. And then this leads to Jamie saying, "Don't take her seriously. She heard that on an episode of The Cosby Show."
And you just feel like someone punched you in the gut.
So we find out that they charged 10 cents per burrito, which is terrible. That is 100% bad. They did a bad job.
Luckily, at this point, they've only had to sell 62 of the loose burritos she kept in the fridge.
Oh, yes, that's right. She opens the fridge and shows off the burritos, and they are just loose laying on the fridge. Also, I noticed that there's nothing else in that fridge,
including shelves.
There's nothing. That fridge is empty except for burritos.
The other thing that Jamie says in this sequence that was really odd, and I still can't wrap my brain around, is that when Reggie comes in, Jamie is ordering Vicky around like she's an appliance. Not like Jamie never treats her like she's part of the family at all. If any character was going to, it would be Jamie. Jamie does not. And he's just ordering her to do all the dishwashing. And Reggie's like, "Why is your little sister doing all the work?" And she's like, "Well, my mom's gone." He's like, "My mom's not now. You know, she's doing all the housework now. Don't worry. Detergent turns her on." And they move away like that, and the audience, this laugh track goes off, and I'm like, "What was the joke there? What was the joke there?"
I mean, I don't I don't know. Like,
what does he think he means?
Yeah, it's a little dicey. They also say that they're going to get so rich that they won't have to go through puberty because they'll have enough money to hire someone to do it for them.
No
this
one
is
says
a show.
anything.
Yeah, this is a show that is on for you at least on Saturday mornings for kids. That is very sexually charged.
At least this episode about burritos are, and like, but also like, why? Like, there are all these jokes that are kind of, you know, double entendres or kind of risque for adults, but also they're also not like, they're not funny.
Yeah,
like, they're so forced.
Yeah, and it's like that's not a joke for you to say like, oh, she gets turned on by detergent. You're like, okay, I guess that's a joke.
Is there a commercial on at that time that had that line? Because there's a few things she says that I think were references to commercials that were on at that time, which is nothing ages worse than making a reference to a currently popular commercial. Nothing ages worse. If you watch any show that references a popular commercial at that time, or you're playing an old board game that asks a question about a popular board game at that time, you will instantly you will have an instant gut reaction of, oh, that's what that was. And then you roll your eyes and feel kind of sick.
Yeah. It's, I mean, I think that is the bad thing about some sitcoms is that they are on at a specific time and they are using the things that are in the environment to kind of pepper their sort of references. And
did you ever watch the episode of the episodes of Step by Step, which you may not have and most people probably shouldn't have, where they brought in two characters who were friends of the guy who lived in the camper in their parking lot?
Vaguely, I've seen
who were basically live action versions of Beavis and Butthead.
I think so. I've seen a good bit of that show. I don't really remember any of it, but it used to be on, and like it was on, I think between, because Full House was, or not Full House, Family Matters was first, right?
Right.
Was that ABC? Because Step by Step was ABC, right?
It's all TGI Friday, yes.
Yeah. So I remember watching Family Matters, and then I think Step by Step came on after that, and then there was something else that I wanted to watch. And
Full House?
Maybe it was something where that was in the middle. So I would kind of like...
And that's generally how you would do these things. You put the least popular show in the middle as a sandwich.
Yes, I would watch it because it was just on in the middle, and so I was just like, all right, I'll watch this and get it over with.
I just remember at the time being, this was about months too late, and it was so desperate. Like, it was the most desperate thing I've ever seen on television, of like, oh, this other thing is popular, you're just going to do it on your show. Not as like, just these characters are just Beavis and Butthead. You're not referencing them, they just are them. But it's not funny because they're not cartoons.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so desperate. Why would you ever do that? And I just, sitcoms have this way of like, especially when they're kind of struggling, of just zeroing in on something that is of the moment so much that, because they're just desperate, like to say for you to look at and go like, oh, I recognize this thing that I like better than this show. And I want to have a halo effect of that. And anytime you reference a commercial or something like that, or another show that is more popular than your show, and then time moves past all of it, it just fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like, don't mention Bill Cosby in this episode. I know it took a long time for that to really get bad, but it got real fucking bad. Like, you don't like, just what, like, would Nick and Knight even show this episode?
I was curious. There's like a throwaway gag. Speaking of jokes that don't totally work, there is a throwaway gag where Reggie comes over and or they come back from selling a bunch of burritos. They have these big fat stacks of cash.
Which apparently is only $43.
Apparently, yeah. Apparently, they only make $43 over all of these burritos. That I guess they've sold like hundreds of burritos, and they've made like $40. But they come in, and Vicky is making dinner, and they ask what she's making, and she's making a chocolate chip pizza. And then the audience laughs, and then they carry on into the next room, leaving her there. How did that pizza taste? I'm curious what the family thought of that. Was that an issue? Like, or did everybody just eat it? They were like, "Oh, it's pretty good, Vicky. Good job."
What's funny is that, like, she's only made regular food to this point, but like he walks in and then he turns to Reggie and goes like, "Check this out. Hey, Vicky, what are you making for dinner?" And she's like, "Chocolate chip pizza." Chocolate chip pizza. And Reggie's like, "Huh?" And he's like, "Yeah." Like, how did you know she was going to do that? That isn't in line with anything she's done before. Why is there almost no reaction to it? He keeps walking through, and then he walks in the other room, and his parents are like, "So what's for dinner tonight? Something fun?" He's like, "You'll find out." We don't.
We don't see them. If they
we don't even see them
it.
react to it. And also, there's so much dead space in this episode. You could have like between them just not reacting to each other's things they say for 5 seconds. They could have easily put a scene where they walk in and the door swings and they're like, "Chocolate chip, what?"
Yeah, I did do a quick little Googling here, and I figured out what Step by Step was sandwiched between that made me actually watch parts of it. And in 92, I guess it premiered in 91, I watched Family Matters. I didn't really care about Perfect Strangers at that point, but 92, 93, Family Matters, Step by Step, and Dinosaurs. So, of course, I was watching Family Matters and Dinosaurs, and I, watched Step by Step as it was on, not really paying attention to it. Then, after Dinosaurs moved out of that time block there, it was Family Matters, Boy Meets World, Step by Step, and Hanging with Mr. Cooper. So, of course, I was watching Boy Meets World and Hanging with Mr. Cooper, but I just kept the TV on to watch Step by Step until that was done.
There's the original theme song to Hanging with Mr. Cooper will never not be in my head. It is so fucking good. Are we going to cover Dinosaurs at some point? Because I feel like that's a show that was very important, but completely fell out of the. We covered it when we talked about Christmas ornaments and dinosaur Christmas ornaments.
Yeah, I think that'll be an episode that comes at some point. I'd love to cover Hanging with Mr. Cooper at some point too. I mean, I don't think that's a weird show, but maybe one of their Halloween episodes that might. I feel like doing a Halloween episode for a lot of these sitcoms will be it's something that's coming in the future.
I think what's fun about that one in my memory is that one of the things is he was a failed basketball player who was trying to get back onto the Golden State Warriors. And kind of the joke was he could get back on the Golden State Warriors because they were so bad. They were like they were the perennial bad team. Like he didn't have to be that good to get on the Warriors. And now they're the biggest sports franchise in North America.
Yeah. Well, that just goes to show you putting topical things in your show. It sometimes makes it age poorly.
It does, but also that theme song won't. It is so fucking good.
Yeah, it is. So we're getting to the end of the episode here, and we see the kids making burritos in the middle of the night. It's 1 a.m. They're doing this because they have a big order to fill for Joe's Diner.
Joe's Diner is whoever Joe is, piece of shit.
He is taking advantage of these poor children. He's like, yeah, I'll pay you $10 or 10 cents for these burritos
that are resell hours later.
Yeah, these loose burritos that you're going to bring to me at 5 a.m., I'm going to resell them for the lunch rush and make like $1 a burrito or $3 a burrito. Probably more. So
I hope the dad is when he goes to renegotiate this is like, you're going to pay more for this or else you're going to jail.
Yeah, I'm going to call the health department. So they're making these burritos, and Harriet, the little annoying neighbor, shows up at 1 a.m. because she smelled the burritos coming from the house and wafted into her room. And they're like, I don't know, go back home. And Reggie's like, well, maybe, if she helps us, then maybe we can get more burritos done. And Vicky does the calculations. She said, right now we have 3 people making 3 burritos every 12 seconds. We add another person. That's, 4 people making 4 burritos every 12 seconds. will be we should definitely hire another worker as long as they didn't enter the country illegally.
That's so fucking painful. And like I was waiting. Okay, I was waiting for a joke. There's a portion in the middle of this episode where Jamie is acting like he's helping out Vicky with the housework. So he's got an apron on.
Yeah.
And I was really waiting for some gay panic jokes.
Yeah, it doesn't come, thankfully.
It doesn't. There's a fat shaming joke in the middle.
Oh yes,
but which I did not write down. So
it's basically it's Ted. That's his name, right? Dad, dickhead. Yeah, Ted.
Dick Christie.
Dick.
Which is a great name.
It's
a great
him.
Politician name.
It's him basically saying to Joan something about 135-pound women wiggling into a 90-pound jumpsuit or something like that. It just
that's right.
Or a jumpsuit for a 90-pound woman, some bullshit like that.
1985, baby.
Yeah, it's fucked up. But so they decide to let Harriet help them. This is when Harriet starts throwing flour everywhere for some reason. And Ted and Joan hear something, so they come downstairs. They smell that it's burritos. They pop into the kitchen. They catch them. And it turns out that earlier in the episode, Joan told Jamie just to charge whatever Vicky needed for cleaning and cooking to their account at the supermarket. And they catch them making burritos. Jamie's like, "Oh, I wanted to make some money and try to get a job like you told me." And it turns out that they've made $43, but all the ingredients charged to the supermarket is $180. And Joan, who has made about that much in commission from her dress sales, says that she will just cover the bill. But then Ted is like, "No, I got a better idea. Let's make 200 burritos instead of 100 burritos, and let's raise the price." And so then they all set off to make burritos for Joe's Cafe and to sell them more, and I guess become burrito billionaires.
I got the feeling from the ending when the mom was kind of like, "Well, this is all I made during my 2 weeks at work anyways," that she was going to just quit. And next episode, she's a stay-at-home mom again.
I mean, I feel like it would be... it'll be interesting to see if that is the case, like whether or not she actually continues to keep that job throughout. But I feel like this is one of those shows where shit just gets reset every episode, and so that you can just jump into any episode and figure it out.
Yeah, there was really, besides the fact that if you watch this, you have no idea why he has a robot. It also doesn't matter.
Yeah,
and that's kind of like, if you watch any Knight Rider episode or $6 Billion Man episode or whatever back in the day, like, why does he have a super intelligent talking car? It doesn't matter.
Like, yeah. It also shows that we probably will cover at some point.
Yes, but like that's kind of, you have your intro episode, but like literally all the episodes, you're expected like, hey, this show's in the zeitgeist. This is the premise of it. They just have a robot daughter. We're not going to ever explain where it came from in any episode following this. They just do. It's a show called Small Wonder about a robot girl. So she's the robot girl. She lives with them, and like that. Let's move on. And I feel like today they would almost have to constantly go back to say like, by the way, here's why we have the robot daughter, just in case we're continuing that storyline of how she's going to become a real girl. They don't treat her like anything. Like, no. That is really the standout thing. I think rewatching it is like, they don't treat her like a little girl at all. Like, at all. She's not for a second treated like anything other than like, here's this fucking appliance that looks like a girl.
Yeah,
that's bizarre because I know she's not written like she has any emotions or she's growing as a person or whatever, but she, in your head that's a real kid. So it's just kind of like, why are they treating this kid like shit?
We didn't unfortunately get to see the where she sleeps, which is in like a closet or something in like a little cabinet in Jamie's room.
Also creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
man, I was really hoping they made the burritos inside of her.
Yeah, I mean that's basically the episode. I am curious about, like, I know I've said this on previous episodes of the show, and like whether or not we might ever cover, we might ever revisit shows, and I think there are a few on our list that we probably will revisit at some point, just if we can see more, because like I am very curious about like I mean. Actually, you know what? I'm looking at what we've done. I don't know that we would actually revisit anything except maybe 18 Wheels of Justice to see Billy D. But I do think we might revisit some Small Wonder episodes, because I've seen a couple of episode descriptions here that I feel like would be worth seeing. Like, for instance,
the Robot Nappers?
Well, no. For instance, season 2, first episode, it's called Chewed Out. Jamie and Reggie learn a sobering lesson by smoking cigarettes and chewing tobacco to elevate their freshman status in junior high.
I like the Wikipedia summary of that is, Jamie and Reggie try smoking for the first time in an effort to be mature. Vicky tries smoking too.
Here's another good one that probably will be very cringy. Home Sweet Homeless, where Joan contacts a local news channel about doing a story. Why is she doing that on the homeless in an effort to raise awareness for those who are, as Joni would put it, residentially handicapped? After running an errand for their parents, Jamie and Vicky find a homeless man sleeping in an alley who introduces himself as Roland Cardwell. Jamie quickly finds a role model in the self-proclaimed professional vagabond and invites him to stay in their home. After witnessing his admiration, Joan and Ted frantically think of ways to change Jamie's preconception of how easy the life of a homeless man really is.
Oh my god! So I'd be.
Oh no! Okay, every episode has an amazing thing, and then the title makes it work even better. Jamie is assigned a tutor to tutor a girl who stutters. Guess what this episode is called?
I mean, I have it in front of me, but yes, it's
Paula.
There's Victoria. Jamie disguises Vicky as a boy named Victor to aid his struggling baseball team.
So it's like Ladybugs.
Yes.
Wow, Jesse Ventura guest starred as a wrestler, invited to the Lawson house for dinner. He has a surprise for Ted, as years before he was the nerdy little kid named Wally who Ted teased in college. Wally the Wimp beats the shit out of Ted, I hope.
So the last episode of the first season, which I'm guessing is a tearjerker, it says Ted's father loses his lifetime career in manufacturing to automation and lets everyone know that modern technology has ruined contemporary America, and says the only thing keeping him going is his love of Vicky. Ted is placed between a rock and a hard spot in trying to reveal to his father that his beloved granddaughter is a robot.
Okay, so does that mean that his grandparents have like Alzheimer's or something? Did they not see them for a decade? Like, hey, here's our granddaughter who you've never seen before.
I'm guessing she's adopted.
Oh, okay.
But the razor of I hate automation because it took away my job and is ruining America, but my granddaughter is a robot. This is the first episode where Vicky shows emotion through crying.
Wow.
That is not a rock and hard place. It's the most manufactured possible situation of conflict I have ever come across.
Season 3, episode 9 is The Bad Seed. Ted builds a more advanced robot, but his plans to scrap Vicky are halted when the new model refuses to obey orders. So he just built another one and was like, fuck this one that we've had for 3 years. I'm going to throw it in the trash.
They're going to throw her away. They're going to but they don't treat her like she's a kid. Which is the entire premise of one of these shows is the family she lives with treats her like she's a part of the family. The dad is willing to trash her.
Here's a good one. The Fats of Life. Vicky literally balloons after Ted unwittingly upgrades her energy supplementing polynucleotide processor with an appetite, which creates excessive digestive gases and causes her a date issue for the school dance. So we get a farting robot.
Yep. Oh, God. This is one I would like to bring someone else on because also kind of remembers the show but doesn't, because I would be interested in them reacting to the tone of the show and how they treat.
Oh my God. Ronald McDonald House. Jamie stages a play to help a boy cope with leukemia.
No.
Wow, I'll drink to that. Due to Vicky's mishandling of terms, Child Services Officer Miss Fernwall thinks Ted is an alcoholic and threatens to take Vicky away unless he joins AA.
What?
Wow, I do want to watch more of these because this show seems insane.
It seems like a lot of bad ideas.
Wow.
All time.
Come Fly With Me from season 4. The Lawson's plane is hijacked.
No. There's one called Minnesota Vicky.
Oh, no. Episode 7 of season 4, The Sheik. A teenage sheik wants Vicky for his bride.
To keep his company's presence in the Arab country, Ted lets the visiting young ruler draft Vicky into his harem.
Wow.
That's how they just Wikipedia puts it. I want you to read the very final episode of The Neighbor's Wife. I want you to read it what your description of it says.
Okay, this is from IMDb.
Okay.
Thy Neighbor's Wife. Joan poses as Miss Brindle to impress a businessman.
So
I don't know what any of that means.
It says in this one, in the final episode, Brandon, which apparently is the redhead neighborhood girl's dad, invites a potential employee to meet his family, quote unquote. Last minute substitutes Joan and Vicky to help Brandon get promoted to a job in Japan. Joan has to pretend she's his wife and that Vicky is their daughter and Harriet and Jamie is their neighbor. That's your last episode for all the crazy shit you did? It's a wife swap?
Wow, Vicky Doolittle. When Ted installs a new language translation device, random access multiple concurrent linguistic analytical sequencer. Wow. What is that? RAM class. That's not even a good acronym. Into Vicky, it enables her to understand any language, including even animals like the boss's dog. Miss Jennings forces Mr. Jennings to fire Ted when Joan balks at doing uncredited work for an affair. I don't think that's that kind of an affair, but it's very interesting.
So what we're saying is that this show is terrible, but it has some of the best crazy episode descriptions you'll ever come across.
Yeah, I think we have to watch at least another. I think that let's just make it. We'll put it out here. We'll do at least one episode from every season if we can find them.
Yes, to see if we can see the growth of this.
Yeah, because
the small one.
Yeah, we've done season 1 pretty early on in the run, about midway through. I want to see where they go with seasons 2 and 3 and 4. Like I need to know. Like I mean,
know at some point they let her hair gets longer. That's all I know.
I mean, this is like, this show is. I mean. Season 3, episode 5, It's Okay to Say No. Jamie and Vicky help the police catch a drug dealer. Oh my God.
Bad.
The next one, Read My Lips. Jamie befriends a deaf boy for the wrong reasons.
You know what they are?
What?
To earn scout points.
Oh, they have a Halloween episode. The Lawsonville Terror. Electrocuted Vicky behaves as though possessed.
Yeah, so that's almost like when Ernest gets electrical powers. And Ernest goes to jail.
Yeah. Okay. So let's wrap it up here with our ratings, our scale of weirdness, where this falls. And I think I'm going to go first this time. And I think that this might be one of the weirdest shows that we've done so far in this run. I think it is up there for sure with just the premise, the episodes that seem to be coming in this series, like, I think this is our weirdest show, like hands down so far on this run.
So I'm gonna give it.
Well, I haven't given my rating yet. So out of 10,
what do you got?
I think I'm gonna go 8. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go 8 because it's not like crazy weird, but it's weird. So I'm 8, but I could be convinced for a 9.
I'm an 8. Here's how my math of it. The gimmick, the concept is just a 5.
Sure. Okay. Fine. Yeah, because it's very similar to Holmes and Yo-Yo,
which is weird. But like, this is not for the 80s. Hidden Robot isn't crazy, right?
No. Sure.
It's how it is. It is one how it is presented, where she is just she is just another appliance in the house, and they treat her like shit.
Yeah.
And apparently, even by later show, they're ready to throw her away for a better model, which is just insane. Why you would ever have a character you're supposed to care about do that? And the tone of it and the execution of it is so bizarre, and their choices for what they're going to do with this premise is crazy. So like it bumps it up literally 3 spots, which is very, very high on our scale, because it's such an easy thing to do. She's a little girl who's a robot. She's learning to be human, but she's still kind of human. The family thinks treats her like she's a human, so she'll become more humans. And they're afraid of the rest of the world finding out that she's an elf, and they are almost getting caught all the time, and they just want to make sure she's safe, and their family can stick together as is. Right? That's how you would write this show.
Well,
it is not that show at all.
Well, that
show.
That idea is basically the Not Quite Human series that premiered in '87, and that was with and I always bring this up because we've talked about this before, that when I was a kid, I liked those movies. It's about like an android who looks like a boy who's been adopted by Alan Thicke. And his name was Chip, and I wanted my name to be Chip. And when I had to explain that to people in my grade school classes, I felt very embarrassed because no one knew what I was talking about. But yeah, that was the kind of movie, is that he was this android boy who was adopted by this family and treated like, a teenager. Like, he had a sister, in quotes, he had a father, and they tried to protect him and see how he interacted with people, but they cared about him as a character. He was not an appliance like Vicky is.
Yeah, and the robot member of the family is never just an appliance.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever, let alone when it's a little girl in a little red dress. It's a weird choice. And especially when the show is for kids, and in theory, the kids would be relating to Vicky. I think they think the kids are going to relate to Jamie, and he's a little shit-eating monster.
Yeah, that would be bad if they related to him.
He's got a helmet hair, looks like his dad, and he puts his hand on his hip, and I don't like him. I do not like that kid at all.
Very, very fair. Yeah, this is quite a show. Very glad that we finally have talked about this. We brought it up multiple times on our various podcasts together, and I'm so glad that we finally have gotten a chance to experience the wonder that is Small Wonder.
It was Big Wonder today.
Big Wonder, that's right. That's the vibes, Big Wonder vibes. But until next time, when we are back talking about another weird program, I've been Josh.
I have been Skinner.
And we hope you keep it weird throughout the rest of your week. You've been listening to Center of Weirdness. If you like this show, rate and review us wherever you find it, but especially on Apple Podcasts. You can listen to every episode at centerofweird.com, where you can also find all of the old Predictocast episodes. And if you want to get in touch with us to tell us about a show we should cover, hit us up on Twitter at Weird Center. As always, thanks for listening.
62 burritos.
Yeah, I'm off to make 62 burritos and eat them, and then make chocolate chip pizza.
I'm actually kind of thinking about making that chocolate chip pizza right now.
I mean, it would probably be good. It'd be like a Pizza Hut dessert pizza that they used to put out at the buffet.
They were good.
I'm sure it would be great.